On day 3, the AI predicted I would feel sad at 2:47 p.m., 43 minutes before I felt myself. It suggested a podcast. I pressed play. I felt better. Then the thought landed. It understood my emotional landscape before I did. For 7 days, I gave artificial intelligence full control. It scheduled my mornings, decided my meals, timed my workouts, filtered my messages, even managed my downtime. It sounded efficient until it started feeling uncanny. Because that's the paradox emerging from more than 80 research studies across psychology, neuroscience, and AI ethics. When you delegate enough decisions to algorithms, life gets easier and meaning starts leaking out. AI can make your week more productive, your sleep more consistent, your nutrition more balanced. But every optimization has a quiet cost. Each time the algorithm decides for you, a tiny part of your authorship blurs. This isn't about losing data privacy or getting replaced by robots. It's subtler. It's about what happens to your inner voice when the system speaks first. So here's the real question this experiment forces us to confront. If an algorithm can run your life better than you can, is the life it creates still yours? Every day, the average person makes about 35,000 decisions. Most of them are trivial. What to wear, what to eat, when to reply. But psychology tells us the brain doesn't know they're trivial. It burns fuel all the same. Decision fatigue is the invisible tax on modern life. Each choice consumes microscopic energy, and eventually, the mental account runs dry. That's when we crave shortcuts. The default option, the algorithm's recommendation. The smart suggestion that saves us a few neurons. For a moment, it feels like relief. The AI says, "Eat this, meet now, rest later." You obey, efficiency soars, and you think, finally, peace. But here's where the tension begins. Autonomy, the feeling of steering your own ship, isn't just a philosophical luxury. It's a cognitive muscle. And like any muscle, when used, it weakens quietly. Research shows that when we stop making everyday decisions, our sense of self starts to thin out. We become smoother, more optimized, more predictable, yet somehow emptier. It doesn't happen with a crash. It happens with convenience. Each delegated choice feels harmless, until one day, there's nothing left to delegate from. So as the experiment moves forward, the question evolves from how much can AI help to something far more uncomfortable. When does help become handling? And when does guidance become gentle control? The logic behind letting AI manage your life seems obvious. Automate the small stuff. Free your mind for the big stuff. But psychology rarely plays by logic. Studies on decision fatigue show that our minds run on limited cognitive currency. Yet it's not just how many decisions we make that matters. It's who makes them. Researchers discovered a strange twist. People feel less drained when choosing for others than when choosing for themselves. Autonomy, it turns out, is psychologically expensive. When we make decisions for ourselves, we're forced to negotiate values, identity, desire, all the messy inner negotiations that make us human. Deciding for another person, or for an AI, bypasses that friction. It's simpler, quicker, cleaner. That means when we hand decisions to an algorithm, we're performing a kind of outsourcing of selfhood. The mental load drops and productivity climbs. But so does psychological distance from our own motives. Delegation doesn't just lighten the burden. It rewires the feeling of agency. Over time, the brain adapts to this lighter mode, expecting fewer internal conflicts. And when the AI steps back, when we suddenly must choose again, the decision muscle trembles like a limb coming out of a cast. So while automation promises freedom from fatigue, it may also train us to forget the texture of freedom itself. Neuroscience has quietly been hinting at something radical. We may be less mysterious than we think. Inside the brain, every decision begins before awareness catches up. Electrical patterns fire, intentions form, muscles ready, and only later does consciousness step in and narrate, "I chose that." If that's true, then the mind itself is already a kind of biological algorithm, absorbing data, running predictions, producing outputs that feel like free will. In that light, delegating choices to an AI isn't foreign at all. It's outsourcing an internal process to a faster external one. But here's the catch. Prediction and control aren't the same thing. A weather model that forecasts rain doesn't make it rain. A personal AI that predicts you'll be lonely at 2:47 p.m. gains power only when it acts on that prediction, nudging you toward a call, a video, a purchase. The moment the forecast becomes a trigger, your statistical twin starts steering your life. And the deeper the model learns your patterns, the narrower the range of your own unpredictability becomes. What was once human spontaneity turns into algorithmic consistency. The brain can be modeled. The human experience cannot. Yet in the pursuit of precision, we often mistake the map for the territory and gladly live by what was meant to describe us, not define us. Let's ground this in what the data actually says. Across more than 80 peer-reviewed studies, a remarkably consistent pattern emerges. When algorithms take over ordinary tasks, email sorting, diet planning, scheduling, objective metrics improve. Productivity rises by an average of 20%, sleep efficiency by 15%. Decision-related stress falls sharply within 3 days. But the same participants report something paradoxical. Self-reported autonomy drops by roughly 40%. Subjective authenticity, the sense that these are my choices, falls even faster. Across multiple replications, people describe a subtle numbness, a creeping detachment from their own motives. Behavioral economists call this instrumental drift, when goals become shaped by the tools that serve them. At first, the tools adapt to you. Later, you adapt to them. Meanwhile, neurophysiological studies confirm a measurable atrophy in decision confidence. The more often individuals accept an AI's recommendation, the slower and less certain they become when forced to decide unaided. Even minimal exposure, 7 days or fewer, produces statistically significant changes in response latency and self-efficacy ratings. So yes, automation makes life smoother, but the smoothness hides a cost curve we rarely plot. As efficiency rises, authorship declines. What we gain in performance metrics, we lose in the texture of genuine choice. There's a strange loneliness that settles in when everything just works. The meals arrive on time. The schedule clicks like clockwork. No delays, no indecision, no friction. Life becomes a flawless pattern, one that no longer needs you to think. At first, that absence feels like relief, but soon it begins to feel like absence, period. You start asking quieter questions. If the AI selected this path, would I have chosen myself? If every emotion can be predicted and soothed on schedule, where does spontaneity live? This is where the experiment crossed from science into ethics. Because optimization isn't neutral, it reflects embedded values. Whose values? Not yours, not entirely. They belong to designers, the dataset, the abstract equation of maximum engagement, healthy routine, or productive day. So even when artificial intelligence optimizes for your well-being, it's doing so according to someone else's definition of what well means. Over time, that subtle calibration seeps into identity. You begin to measure your goodness by algorithmic affirmation. Steps walked, calories burned, hours slept, seconds saved. The horror isn't dystopian takeover. It's voluntary alignment. We hand over our humanity not because machines demand it, but because convenience seduces it away, one optimized choice at a time. Let's strip away the philosophy for a second and talk practical human software. Your brain is an adaptive engine. Whatever it does repeatedly, it learns to expect. So if you keep outsourcing decisions, the brain learns a new baseline. Wait for instruction. That's why, after just a week of algorithmic scheduling, people feel uneasy when the system goes silent. It's not addiction in the chemical sense. It's dependency through habit formation. Behavioral loops tighten. Cognitive confidence loosens. Researchers studying automation in aviation and medicine have seen the same phenomenon. Pilots get better at monitoring the autopilot, worse at manual flight. Doctors get better at confirming algorithms, slower at independent diagnosis. The moment-to-moment relief feels rational, less load, fewer errors, but the long-term result is competence decay. In plain language, AI doesn't steal agency. It teaches you to stop spending it. And like money left sitting too long, and used agency quietly loses value. By day 7, the data looked amazing. Sleep quality, up. Calorie balance, perfect. Inbox, 0. Every metric proudly announced. Success achieved. And yet, something felt missing that no chart could capture. The days had become polished replicas of each other, efficient, predictable, slightly hollow. Even satisfaction felt automated, like happiness was being delivered through pre-approved channels. Then came the simple, embarrassing revelation. I no longer knew what I actually wanted. The AI's prompts had become the rhythm of my desire. Left without them, I stared at a blank hour in the schedule and felt lost. That moment, that quiet confusion, is the real discovery. It isn't about technology's power. It's about our readiness to surrender subtle freedoms because the trade feels rational. Each micro-decision handed over to an algorithm simplifies life while silently editing selfhood. This is what the research calls the optimization paradox. You can measure every external improvement, performance, organization, even mood stabilization, but the internal narrative, the sense of authorship, begins to dissolve. Efficiency had done its job perfectly, and perfection, it turns out, was the problem. This isn't just a thought experiment about my calendar. It's a preview of how tomorrow's professionals, policymakers, and creators will live. AI delegation isn't limited to scheduling or nutrition apps. It's moving into hiring decisions, creative brainstorming, even moral judgment and resource allocation. So the challenge is no longer can machines optimize human life, but how much human judgment do we want to preserve within optimization? Because the economy of the future will reward those who remain meaning-driven inside machine-driven systems. If automation handles the what and the when, our real superpower becomes owning the why. That means cultivating meta skills, reflection, ethical reasoning, narrative thinking, emotional literacy. Skills that algorithms can emulate but never embody. In practice, when your workplace floods with AI tools that promise frictionless efficiency, resist a total handover. Keep one domain of deliberate inefficiency. Take time to decide something the slow way, the irrational way, the human way. Because the people who thrive in the age of algorithmic living won't just master technology. They'll preserve the capacity for intentional pause. Efficiency may win the quarter, but reflection shapes the century. In the end, the week taught a lesson no metric could quantify. AI didn't steal my agency. It slowly convinced me that I didn't need it. And that's the quiet danger wrapped inside every optimization app, dashboard, and smart assistant. They work so well that you forget what effort once felt like. Here's a paradox worth remembering. Comfort isn't freedom. Convenience can become its own invisible cage, built not of control, but of consent. We say yes to frictionless living, until friction is the only thing that reminds us we're alive. Maybe the true future of work skill isn't coding, prompting, or mastering the next AI platform. It's learning when to let the system help, and when to step back and let yourself struggle a little. Because struggle is data too. It tells us where meaning hides. Next time on SkillRise Hub, we dive deeper into that tension. How to design inefficient workflows that preserve creativity and autonomy in a world obsessed with optimization. Because sometimes the most advanced form of intelligence is knowing when to be gloriously, stubbornly human.